Here's a truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most people hate content creators, not in the way they hate politicians or telemarketers, but with a deeper, more personal kind of resentment. They hate writers, artists, musicians, athletes, actors, streamers, basically anyone who's managed to escape having what society calls a quote-unquote real job. And trust me, nobody hates creatives more than other creatives. Now, this isn't the kind of hatred that leads to death threats, usually. It's more of a slow burning grudge, the kind that makes people feel a little burst of satisfaction when they hear about a formal child star working at Walmart, or an author's book flopping when she tried to write thrillers instead of Harry Potter. It's the kind of hatred that makes people nod with satisfaction when AI threatens creative jobs, thinking, good, now they'll know what it's like. But why? What's really driving this resentment? Let's break it down piece by painful piece. First, there's the obvious. Most people hate their jobs, and not the mild dislike. We're talking a bone-deep loathing for the 9-to-5 grind, for meaningless meetings, for answering to middle managers who answer to senior managers, who answer to executives who might as well live on another freaking planet. We hate commuting, we hate office politics, we hate pretending to be busy when our work is actually done, and most of all, we hate that we have to do it all again tomorrow. So when we see someone making a living by writing stories, painting pictures, making music, or playing games on Twitch, it feels like a personal insult. Why do they get to escape while I'm stuck here? Becomes the underlying theme of every interaction with creative work. The artist's freedom becomes an accusation of the viewer's constraint. Now, this resentment isn't really about the quality of work or even about money. Plenty of creators make less than your average office worker. Money's not the whole point. The point is they've escaped the quote-unquote real job paradigm, and for that, they must be punished. But there's something even deeper going on here. The real kicker is that most people don't even want what creators make. Not really. What they want is the perfect vision that exists in their head, and no creator can ever match that. Think about it like being on a diet and sneaking a cookie. If you're gonna break your diet, that cookie better be fucking amazing. But when it's just okay, you feel disappointed. You feel cheated. You broke your rules for this mediocrity, this pale shadow of what a cookie should be. That's how people view creative works. They invest their time, their money, their attention, and what do they get? Someone else's vision, someone else's interpretation, someone else's version of what the thing should be. It's never quite right, never quite what they imagined, never quite worth the investment they made. Or worse, the investment society made by letting them be one of the lucky ones. And instead of recognizing this as the simple reality of the gap between imagination and reality, they blame the creator. You had one job, they think, and you couldn't even get it right. The worst part is, they're right. This explains why certain characters and stories become massive hits despite being criticized as bland or poorly written. Bella Swan from Twilight, for example. Critics called her a blank slate, an empty character, a nothing person. And you know what? They were right. And that's exactly why she worked. Bella Swan is the perfect audience surrogate, precisely because she's so undefined. She's just detailed enough to exist in the story, but vague enough that anyone can step into her shoes. She's not a character so much as she's a carefully engineered void, designed specifically for readers to pour themselves into. The critics who complained about her blandness were missing the point entirely. Her blandness wasn't the flaw, it was the whole damn point. She worked because she wasn't a strong, distinct character. She worked because she was whatever the reader needed her to be. That brings us to this current moment where AI threatens to replace human creators. You might expect audiences to be concerned about this. After all, they don't care about the unique vision of human artists. Don't they value the craftsmanship, the personal touch, the human element? The uncomfortable truth is, no, they don't, and they never did. Remember, what most people want isn't the artist's vision, it's their own vision brought to life. They've just been settling for human artists because that was the only option available. Now that AI offers the possibility of getting closer to the perfect vision in their heads, both cheaper and faster, they're more than happy to throw human creators under the bus. That's why arguments about AI art lacking soul or genuine creativity fall on deaf ears. Most people don't want soul or creativity. They want their own imagination validated. They want their internal vision made real. And if AI can do that better than humans, then goodbye, humans. The fact that this might force creators to get quote-unquote real jobs isn't just an acceptable consequence. For many people, it's a bonus. Finally, these artistic types will have to work retail like everyone else, assuming, of course, creating isn't their main hustle. This same dynamic explains why people get so enraged when celebrities express political opinions. The conventional wisdom is that people are angry because celebrities are out of touch or living in a bubble. That's not quite it. The real issue is simpler and more vindictive. People believe that if you've managed to escape having a real job, you've forfeited your right to opinions about the real world. The logic goes, you play pretend for a living, so what could you possibly know about real issues affecting real people? It's not about celebrities being out of touch. It's about them being perceived as having opted out of real life entirely. The message is clear. You choose to leave the real world behind for your cushy entertainment job, so you shouldn't get to weigh in on real world problems. And if you want to weigh in on more Dystopia Inc. content, make sure to press like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell at the bottom. Anyways, this resentment has taken on new forms in the digital age. Now that a whole class of content creators, YouTubers, streamers, podcasters, and influencers who have seemed to crack the code of escaping the 9 to 5. And guess what? They're resented just as much as the traditional artists and celebrities. Maybe even more, because now the escape seems even more achievable, which makes it even more infuriating when you can't achieve it. Watching someone make millions by playing video games on Twitch or posting makeup tutorials on YouTube feels like a personal attack on everyone stuck in a cubicle. The really twisted part? Many content creators work longer hours than people with real jobs, often for less money and zero job security. But that doesn't matter. They're still seen as having escaped the system, and that's unforgivable. So where does this leave us? As AI continues to develop, as more people try to escape the traditional work through creative pursuits, as the gap between real jobs and creative careers potentially grows even wider, this resentment is only going to intensify. We're potentially heading towards a future where AI tools makes it easier than ever for people to bring their internal visions to life, and simultaneously harder than ever for human creators to make a living. And you know what? A lot of people will celebrate this. They'll see it as a cosmic justice, as the universe finally forcing these creative types to join the rest of us in the real world. Bitter irony is that the resentment is itself a product of the system everyone is stuck in. In a world with better work-life balance, with more opportunities for creativity and self-expression in everyday life, with less soul-crushing real jobs, maybe we wouldn't be so quick to resent those who manage to escape it. But we don't live in that world. We live in this one, where escape seems impossible for most and unforgivable for the few who manage it, where the very act of creating something somehow becomes a direct insult to everyone who can't, where the gap between imagination and reality breeds contempt for anyone who dares trying to bridge it. Welcome to the future of creativity, where the only acceptable art might be the kind that makes its creators suffer just as much as everyone else. At least then it would be fair, right? The cookies still won't taste as good as you imagined, but at least you'll have the satisfaction of knowing the baker is just as miserable as you are.